Pugh, and I'm the education specialist for the Eisenhower Foundation. My partner, Mitzi Gose, she'll be in charge of fielding any questions and the answers that you have today. Some of you might be familiar with our great state of Kansas because you're huge basketball fans. Basketball was actually invented in the state of Kansas. You might have seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, and you know that Dorothy and Toto are from Kansas. But we're much more than that. We are very proud to be the 34th state from the 34th president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who called Abilene, Kansas his hometown. It's where he grew up as a boy. And so my job, it's super cool. I get to teach kids all about Dwight D. Eisenhower and the time period that he lived in. So let's get started. All right, so let's begin by getting comfortable with your chat box. I'm a huge geography nerd and I like to know where people are. So if you would type in the chat box the city or the state that you're located, or raise your hand and let us know where you're watching this lesson. Mitzi will be able to field those, and then we can get a little more comfortable with using those. So as we wait for those answers to come in, you can see that I marked where Abilene, Kansas is. It is in the center of the United States. We are landlocked. We don't have any major bodies of water around us. And we're just south of Interstate I-70, which is a major interstate that crosses the United States from east to west. So do we have anybody that's shared where they are, Mitzi?
We do. We've got a wide variety. We have Utah. Hello, Utah. Reno. 2 people from Reno, Nevada. Welcome. We have a New Hampshire student with us, Abilene. Hello to our hometown girl there. Corona, California. Enterprise, Kansas. Hello. And Nashville, Tennessee. So,
ooh, what a nice variety. That's fantastic. I'm so happy that you all took the time from your schedule today to join us to learn about victory gardens. So today we're going to be looking at 3 big components. We're going to look how victory gardens provided a sense of usefulness, productivity, and patriotism throughout the United States during World War II. We're going to look at the what, where, who, when, and why of the victory gardens. And then we'll look at the power of propaganda with words and images. Victory gardens first became popular in World War I and then again in World War II. They did something incredible by joining the nation during a really stressful time and providing a sense of purpose for those planning their own victory gardens. Today, there's been a resurgence of victory gardens in America, again, providing a sense of being useful, of being productive, and being patriotic. So, what is a victory garden? I'm going to give you some background information about victory gardens, and I want you to listen to what is a victory garden, where victory gardens were planted, who planted them, when they were planted, and why have victory gardens, okay? So on the left part of your screen, keep those big W's in mind as you listen to a little background knowledge about victory gardens. So during both World War I and World War II, many resources like food were scarce. They were hard to come by because America needed to focus on getting soldiers the resources they needed to win the war. During those times, the American people were encouraged to grow their own victory gardens, which would ensure that everyone on the home front, which would be here in the United States, would have access to enough food that was nutritious. This allowed the large food suppliers, so think of like the really big farms that produce a lot of food, that food could then be sent over to the troops that were fighting in the war. So it also provided a morale boost by allowing Americans on the home front to have a sense of purpose and a sense of helping out in the war. The American people wanted to do anything they could, and they quickly began to plant victory gardens anywhere they could find space. These gardens provided families with nutritious foods throughout the year and allowed the large food supplies to be sent to the troops overseas. By growing victory gardens, the American people were showing their patriotism or love of their nation and boosting their morale during a very challenging time of war. So there's your background knowledge. Now feel free, again, we're looking at the what was it? What are we talking about? Where? The who was involved? When was this happening? And why? Okay? So if you would raise your hand and Mitzi could unmute you, or you could even possibly type it in your chat box, we can talk about these. So while we're waiting for those, I'll go ahead and say what it is we're talking about. So we're talking about victory gardens, and they were grown to help win the war. What about the where? Where were these victory gardens being planted, or who, or when, or why?
Helen, I have Grace ready to answer.
All right, Grace.
Go ahead. Go ahead. What? Go ahead, Grace.
Everywhere.
Grace, you are absolutely right, everywhere. And if you look at that picture that's up on the screen, we can see this isn't necessarily a traditional place to have a garden, because look in the background. They're high rises, they're big buildings. This is an urban city. So we don't usually have a whole lot of gardens in the city. We have buildings. So what we'll see even further today is that they're gonna be grown everywhere. Can someone share with me who was planting these victory gardens?
Okay, Grace, go ahead.
Mom and kids.
Say it again.
The mom and kids.
The kids surely were growing the victory gardens. You're gonna have the kids, the grandmas, the moms, dads, everyone. All Americans are gonna be growing victory gardens. And specifically, they're going to start growing them in World War I, and then again, it came up in World War II, and we're even growing them today, okay? So we have the who, the American people of all ages, the when, and then I think this is a big, big significant point. Why? Why were the American people growing these victory gardens? Were they growing them for fun? Were they growing them for exercise? Was it a competition? They're going to be growing them to show patriotism and to really boost the morale of the nation and of the people.
Helen, I have Allie has typed in some answers. She says for what? Planting victory gardens, where the U.S. home front, who the American people, when during World War I and World War II, why to provide soldiers with food from big farms and also provide the people on the home front with food.
Wow, Allie, you were spot on with all of that. Very good. Good listening. All right, our next slide, we're going to listen to Kelly Holthus. He's an older gentleman, and this is an account of what he remembers when he was a kid, and victory gardens were prevalent, or they were very popular. And as a kid, I want you to think of putting yourself in his shoes. And sometimes people think kids can't do a whole lot. And we know that's not the truth. You can change the world. So I want you to think the connection that victory gardens and kids have together.
Well, it was just very difficult to transport fruit and vegetables.
I'm sorry, I played it on the wrong screen. Let me get this going.
Well, it was just very difficult to transport fruit and vegetables and everything. And most of it that was raised in California or wherever they were raised was going to the troops. So we had to raise our own and bring it into the local grocery store. So another, as a part of the government effort, was they called them victory gardens. And in the cities and even in the country, they wanted everybody to have their own garden, to raise their own produce, and maybe have enough so that they could let somebody that didn't have access to a garden have produce and things, because it wasn't available in the stores. It was a great morale thing. And for young people like me, it was, I could do my part. I was a part of the effort.
So the key part here is that he felt as a kid, as a young person, he was part of the effort. And that's really what the whole concept of Victory Gardens was, is it didn't matter your age, it didn't matter your socioeconomic class, if you were wealthy or poor or somewhere in between, anyone could plant a garden and it could really boost the morale. Right. We need to learn a little vocabulary before we get started. And for some of you, it's going to be a review. And for others, it's going to be something new. So there's two big words I want us to look at. The first one is propaganda. And what propaganda is, it's information used to influence an audience to further an agenda. Those are some big words. Really what it means, it's language and images to produce or get you to feel a certain way or a certain emotion. So when you see something or hear something, is it going to get you excited? Is it going to make you sad? Is it going to cause fear? Okay. And words and images can cause this. And we'll look at lots of propaganda to give you a better idea of the use of the word propaganda. And then we need to learn the word patriotism. Patriotism is a sense of love and devotion and attached to a homeland. Oftentimes we think of America when we think of patriotism, but other people from other countries can be patriotic as well. I want you to think of a time the American people are patriotic. Is there something, and you can type this in or raise your hand, is there something you do daily that's patriotic? Or is there a certain month America tends to be more patriotic? Or maybe there's something on your front porch that flaps in the wind that's patriotic? Is there anything you all do that's a little patriotic?
Grace says the Pledge of Allegiance, as well as Kit. Kit says Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance, fantastic. That's, you know, a daily routine in most schools. We stand and say our pledge. I'm curious if my son has morning meetings and they still stand virtually, as I'm sure many of you all do, and say the pledge. So again, yes, very patriotic.
We have some other answers coming in here. We have Kyle says the July 4th, when we celebrate our nation. Grace also points out Memorial Day, Veterans Day, 4th of July. George says, we made a sign for our front yard in red, white, and blue, and we have a flag hanging outside on our house.
Oh, George, that's awesome. Great answers, great answers. America, we are definitely a very patriotic nation for sure.
Kit also says, we wave the flag outside of our house.
Good for you, Kit. Wonderful. And Memorial Day, I mentioned that just came up. That's going to be in a few weeks. Okay. All right. So let's check out some propaganda Victory Garden posters. I'm going to go over this first poster. Posters were used heavily to promote Victory Gardens from our American government. And these posters were put all over. They were put in grocery stores and butchers, in movie theaters, shopping centers. They were put all over, and they're very powerful. And so I'm going to go over a poster to identify the propaganda and the emotion it evokes or it makes me feel with some simple tools, okay? And then I'm going to have you engage and work on some. So let's look at this first poster. And I'm going to start in the way back of the poster. And what first strikes me is the American flag. And automatically when I see the American flag, I feel pride and I feel that patriotism, again, the love of my country. And then I see the cavalry or the military on horseback, and there's not any color there. So it's like they're at a distance, like they're far away from me, but there's still that American flag. And then towards the front of the poster, there's a beautiful basket of homegrown vegetables. Okay, so that's something almost I can reach or touch. So that's the image that I'm seeing. That's very powerful in itself. But then those words, food is ammunition. Don't waste it. Whew. So ammunition is what you load into a gun, okay? And so that's going to be very powerful. So they're comparing bullets to food and that they both can win a war. So don't waste those. You wouldn't waste a bullet. You wouldn't waste your food. So when that poster is up, you're thinking to yourself, whew, I need to plant my victory garden. I need to eat all my food. I need to be very mindful so the men and women fighting in World War II can be victorious, because if I don't do what I should at home, possibly we could lose. So again, that emotion is being pulled. It almost pulls at your heartstrings, okay? So I'm gonna pull up another poster. And I want you to look at, the poster, and I want you to look at the image and as well as the words, and see if you can tell me what sort of emotion is being pulled from you, as well as what it's saying to the American people. Oftentimes the words and the titles should be, they're big and they're bold. Sometimes the colors are going to be bright. Okay, so again, what are you seeing in this poster?
Joanna West. Let's see, I think I can get you unmuted there. Not sure why Joanna's not unmuting.
All right, well, I'll share that one out, and the rest of you can look at the next poster. So obviously the title, Shoot to Kill, Protect Your Garden. Oh, wow, it's kind of like you're a soldier, okay? And you're shooting an enemy, but with this, you're shooting with a pesticide. And you're shooting that sorry green grasshopper who's trying to take down your tomatoes, all right? You need to protect. So again, the image is powerful as well as the words. So one more, this is a fun one. I'm seeing some characters that look strangely familiar. Does anyone else have a connection with any of these characters on our last poster?
I have George is saying, take care of your garden and protect it from pests. And Grace is pointing out that she sees the bug being shot with chemicals to protect the plants. She's also saying it looks like a woman is powerful with a gun on that middle poster.
Right?
Allie says, she's talking about the next poster then, that she's seeing Batman and Robin and Superman. And Kyle is also supporting that, saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's so cool is when we see these superheroes, we tend to think morally superheroes do what's right, okay? And so when you have Superman and Batman and Robin, and they are proudly standing in their victory garden for a kid, it's really speaking to the kids who would be participating in these victory gardens. Very much like the woman being strong and powerful, that poster would be directed towards women. And it was important for different demographics to be touched by these posters in the use of propaganda, so it tugs at their emotions, because the same poster is not going to work for everybody, so there needed to be a wide variety.
I like Grace's interpretation. She said, superheroes like superfoods.
Way to go, Grace. Keep that one in mind for later, okay? All right, we have Charles Aston. And Charles Aston was an African-American artist, and he created propaganda drawings that were published in many African-American newspapers throughout World War II. And he also used very powerful images and the use of propaganda to connect with people, okay? So whereas before you had the posters that are going to be shown throughout public spaces, here we're going to have his artwork put into newspapers. Can someone tell me what a newspaper is? I haven't seen one. They might be in the archives somewhere. What did people use newspapers for? I mean, today, if I need to know what's going on, I check this guy, okay? So what were newspapers used for?
Allie says to learn about recent news, and Grace says they tell you what's going on.
Right? We just have different versions of newspapers today, whether it's, you see it on streaming TV or the internet or Twitter, different social media accounts. So the newspaper, they would be delivered in the morning and in the evening. And this was a very big deal. And oftentimes newspapers were read as a family to see what was going on around the world. And Charles Alston, he just had a really creative way and a very provocative way to make these connections. And if we're looking at his drawings, there's definitely some symbolism involved. If you look at that first one with the flying vegetables, okay, what are these flying vegetables going towards? Is it a school food fight? Are people weeding and they're accidentally pulling out real vegetables? Where's this carrot and radishes? Where are they heading towards?
Kyle says the Nazi symbol, and also Allie says the Axis powers. Grace says they are bombing Germany.
Right on, all the above.
Kit says the vegetables are going to the Nazis, towards the Nazis.
And those vegetables, again, they're ammunition. The significance, they are just as important as ammunition. And all of you took the image of the swastika, and it represents different things as the Axis powers, Germany, the Nazis. And so from the home front, your powerful vegetables can really do a lot. And again, when you look at the second drawing here, this is a little bit different. It pulls at an emotion differently, and maybe a different audience, such as a family. When you see a mom and a dad and a young boy and a baby, this would be going towards, definitely family. And it reads, America needs your strength. Plan nutritious meals. A well-fed nation is a fighting nation. And then you have like the toy soldiers almost at the bottom. And it truly represents you need to stay healthy at home on the home front just as much as our troops overseas need to stay healthy, okay? And we can do that all by having a victory garden. So we're gonna watch a quick little video. And this video is going to be, it was filmed in Great Britain, and Great Britain was one of the Allied powers in World War II, along with the United States, and they too wanted their people to grow victory gardens. Now, this is a bit of an updated version with some new music, and what I want you to do as you're watching it, I want you to see how propaganda was used. Look at the images. See what pulls at your heartstrings, what emotions you feel. And even while the video is rolling, feel free to type what you're feeling or seeing or questions you might have. And then we can go over those when it's finished. It's just about 3 minutes.
Joined the ranks of this great new army. Young men are doing it. Young women. Children. Old men. They know that food is just as important a weapon of war as guns. Using the right tool for the job and using it in the right way. Dig for victory.
All right. I am curious if we have, I see it's blinking, if anyone had any reactions to that video. Mitzi, I think you're still on mute.
There we go. Thank you. Allie says everyone is working together and people may feel inclined to plant because everyone else is doing it. Grace says, this looks like a lot of work. We garden and did not see it as this hard. Yes.
Gardening is, yes, it's definitely can be a challenge, Grace, and then it can be frustrating. We just had a huge hailstorm and a lot of our plants were damaged, but you know, it can also be very rewarding. And like, I think it was Allie mentioned, a sense of unity among the people. And so you almost have a little peer pressure involved with growing your victory garden, okay? All right, let's check out, victory gardens were popping up all over America in some of the most unique places. So I want you to pick just one of these images, okay, 1, 2, or 3, and I want you to spend about 15 seconds looking at it in detail, okay? Really zoom in on it, go from top to bottom, left to right, and I want you to share in the chat box, or feel free, I would love to hear your voices out there, what image you chose and what's a little bit different about the location of these victory gardens. Because we have our traditional gardens, we tend to plant them, I know mine's in the back of the yard, and that's where a lot of gardens are put. None of these are in the back of the yard. So what is unique about the locations of these gardens?
Okay, Grace, I have unmuted you.
It looks like that it might be, picture 1 might be in like the back of a truck or in a trailer park.
Grace, that's a great observation. What made you think that it was in a trailer park?
Because there's a bunch of other little trailers in the background that you can see, and it kind of looks like a trailer from the back.
Awesome observation, Grace. You are absolutely right. And so the trailers look a little bit different nowadays, but you're right. There's multiple trailers in this park, and so this man decided, you know, right next to his trailer, he himself would plant his own victory garden, and you can even see that he painted a sign that read "Victory." So yes, picture number 1 is most definitely from a trailer park. Mm-hmm.
Eiler is saying it looks like it's a much smaller garden in the front of the house. So that's picture 3.
Picture 3, believe it or not, Eiler, people, for a sense of patriotic pride, they started to plant their gardens in the front of the house. They wanted people to know, hey, check me out. Check out my victory garden. You can't miss it. And so they would plant it in the front of their house, which is a bit unusual. Today, we're kind of cautious about, you know, what neighbors would think, or could we do that in the front of our homes? And right here, it was definitely a patriotic sense of pride. So great observation. What about number 2? This one's kind of odd.
Lydia says it's next to a high-rise building and a horse is helping out.
You're right, Lydia. So it looks, with that observation of a high-rise, we're looking at an urban area or a densely populated area, possibly a city. And it looks like they have to, instead of hand plowing or hand tilling up the land, that it's really tough. So they needed to bring a mule or horse in to plow up the land to make it good soil and good ground to plant that victory garden. So people were determined. There's stories of people in urban areas, if they didn't have any land, that they would plant their victory garden within just a single pot. Anything that they could do to contribute to the effort, and they would put that pot in the windowsill, and the sun would, you know, it could do its growing from the windowsill. So anything people could do really brought that sense of pride and patriotism. So what we're going to do now is we've looked at several examples of propaganda and how it was used to encourage people to grow victory gardens. gardens. We've looked at posters, we've looked at drawings, and even a film. Now you're going to create your own caption for one of these images, okay? So image 1 or image 2, you'll pick which one you're drawn to, and then you are going to put a caption on it. We're creating a propaganda poster. So you need to convince me and the other audience what we should put on these posters to get people to grow a victory garden, okay? So again, you're gonna pick either option 1 with the young woman watering her victory garden, or option 2, the young lady looking at her abundance of vegetables she's pulled from her victory garden. We're really just looking for a title here or a sentence. We're not looking for a paragraph, okay? As you're working on those, I thought I would share what the town of Abilene's been doing. Since the craziness happened with COVID-19 starting in March, we thought a way to boost morale in a time where everyone's so locked down in their homes, we would have people create their own victory gardens. And that's just what we've done. And so many people in the city of Abilene have been participating in our victory gardens, and they're taking pictures and they're posting them on Facebook. And it's such a neat experience because it really has boosted morale. It's gotten people outside, away from computer screens, away from traditional learning, and they're learning in their gardens. They're learning science, they're learning math, they're getting their exercise. It's their PE class. Tilling up those yards, it's hard work. I think Grace mentioned how hard it can be. And so that hands-on learning, as well as bringing in the sense of patriotism, joining together in something, as well as boosting that morale, has really been neat for the town.
Okay, so we've got several answers here. Eiler says with poster number 1, if you need water, then so do your plants. Plant a victory garden today. Good.
Love it.
Grace says with poster 1 as well, do your part, help other people. Good. Lydia says, help grow food anywhere you can. That's for poster 1. One more for poster 1. Kyle says, let's win the war. Start your victory garden today.
That pulls, again, that emotion. It's definitely propaganda because you're pulling in that war. Let's win it.
Good, yes. Grace says for poster number 2, grow your own feast. And Allie says, more ammunition helps allies win the fight. Grow your victory garden now.
Oh, those are above and beyond what I could have imagined. Those were great. Fantastic. Yes, I love that woman looking down at all of her produce and then you comparing it to, again, the ammunition. So the more we have at home, the more we have for the men and women fighting overseas. Wonderful. All right, so we mentioned that schools and kids all participated to show their patriotism. Here's 2 different images of schools. And again, feel free to raise your hand and chit chat. I want us to look at the similarities and differences between these 2 images. They're both schools, they're both planting victory gardens, but there's definitely some differences there, and there's several similarities. Can anybody share with me a similarity or a difference between these 2 images of school-aged children working in their victory gardens at school? So on the left, this one's a little different. It looks as if we're looking down. So we're actually on a rooftop garden. Compared to the image on the right, this is going to be a garden right outside the school.
Yes, Grace points out that the difference is that one has raised beds while the other one uses the ground.
Great observation. And raised beds, they've been used for many years, and they help to keep weeds down. And oftentimes raised beds are used when you don't have ample amount of space or a lot of land, obviously like the school on the right did. So
Allie points out that everybody's working together in both pictures. That's a similarity, but that one is on top of the building and the other one is on the ground.
And again, I know it's hard to see the age of the kids on the right, but they are a little bit older. The ones on the left look about the age of my kindergartner. So you're gonna have a wide range of kids working in their victory gardens, and the food that they grew, they ate it at school, okay? So it's not a new concept from farm to table. It's been happening for a long, long time. All right, so victory gardens, we've seen where people planted victory gardens on rooftops, in front yards, and even on windowsills in urban areas. And everyone wanted to participate. I want you to look at this photograph, and you're gonna have to do some observing, and I want you to think about where it is. It's a victory garden. It's a little girl with some overalls. Then there's a couple adults behind her. They're not in gardening clothes, all right? Does anyone have an idea where this victory garden could be?
Yes, a lot of people are chiming in that it looks like the White House.
What? You're telling me the White House would plant a victory garden in their front yard? You're absolutely right, all right? Franklin D. Roosevelt was the president during World War II, and his wife was a huge advocate for victory gardens. And Eleanor Roosevelt said, put that garden right out in front of the White House. Again, it was that sense of pride and patriotism, boosting the nation's morale. If our White House, if our leader of the nation has a victory garden, it's gonna be okay. And I need to do it too. They didn't stop at a victory garden, folks. All right, Eleanor got a little excited, and she decided to add a small herd of, what are those? What are those? Are those large dogs?
Joanna, would you like to talk? I think you're muted on your end, Johanna, but I bet you're saying what everyone else is typing in, and that is sheep.
You got it. The White House had sheep on their lawn, all right? They had livestock. And again, it was a sense of what we can do as a nation, as individuals and united to produce our own food, all right? And so again, it was just very symbolic for the White House to reach out to the people and show them, okay? The best way to lead is to show. And so the White House had their victory garden, they had their herd of sheep, and it very much encouraged the American people to do so. So these next few images look a little bit different. Is this the 1940s wartime, or is it today? And by today, I mean within the last few months of 2020.
A lot of today's coming in.
A lot of today's, you're right. Today, America, we're fighting a different type of enemy. It's not the Axis power, all right? It's a nasty disease, a nasty virus. And it is disturbing our commercial food supply. And it's gonna continue to do so, and we just don't know how much longer. So, like the past, something we can do is we can fight back in our own way. We can take responsibility for growing some of our own food and giving ourselves a morale boost and being patriotic. We can definitely get out and plant a few plants. We can soak in that vitamin D, and we can provide our family with some nutritious food, just like they did back in World War II. So today, we looked at how victory gardens provided a sense of being useful as a person, a sense of being productive and patriotic through America. We looked at what was a victory garden, where it was grown, who grew them, when, and why it was grown. And then we also looked at the power of propaganda with words and images. And I hope you really took something away from this today. I really enjoyed myself, and I would love if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer any of them. does anyone growing a garden this year? Whether you named it a victory garden or not. I think I heard Grace had a garden. Any other gardens?
Yes. Yes, we're getting George and Zook, several yeses.
Awesome. I love all the gardens. And this is the time they're really going to start blowing up. All right. The weather's warming up. The spring rains are coming. And so it's going to be a really neat time to keep your eyes on your garden, keep those weeds away, and make sure no little critters start to enjoy them.
Grace says they've got tomatoes and garlic outside already, fresh herbs. More people are saying, I'm growing one. Harmon. George says we've also started a compost bin and 2 potato bags. Grace said beans and zucchini are growing too, or they've planted them as well. And Joshua is granting one. Grace, compost bins also. So it looks like a lot of great stuff.
That's wonderful. Keep it up through the summer hot months. It becomes a little tedious, but you can do it. Get that food to your table. Good work.
We've got a pumpkin patch going too by Emirate.
Ooh. That'll be exciting come fall.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other questions for our presenters before we wrap up here?
I hope you all will post photos of your gardens on our social media, which is at eisenhowerfoundation.net. And we're using the hashtag Sprout Studies this spring. So we'd love to see your different produce that you're growing. Looks like Kyle has some fruit trees. So that is great. And we really hope that you'll share that with us. The Twitter handle is at Eisenhower Found. Eisenhower, the name, and then F-O-U-N-D. They don't allow longer names, so we had to cut foundation short. I'll put those in the chat panel.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody that joined today. We really appreciate you attending. We do have some more programs coming up for the rest of the month, so please check those out if you're interested. We'll also post the recording of this session on our YouTube channel if you want to access that and share it with other people. But thank you again, and thank you so much, Helen and Mitzi, for sharing all your expertise and for teaching us all today.
Thank you very much. And if this turns off before you can write down those social media addresses, please just visit our website, eisenhowerfoundation.net, and go to our Victory Garden page.
All right, everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you.